All right, here we go. Just a reminder, or hello, if you are joining us for the first time, I'm Nicole Carter. I'm a part of the digital curriculum crew. Background is I was an 8th grade language arts teacher for 12 years before coming here to the district. I was a flipped classroom teacher. I built a ton of content online, both for students and for teachers. And I'm just here to provide as much support as possible. I think there's a lot we can do within Zoom, and especially thinking more about the fact that we will be doing more synchronous style lessons. I will say that I'm coming at this from a perspective more of a secondary teacher. And I know that I have quite a few teachers that are in the pre-K to 2nd grade realm that are really asking for some ideas and tips and tricks. And so I will be developing something that's more specific to you guys. I've been doing research over the last week and we'll pull that together. But I will say for the most part, this is mostly geared towards kind of upper elementary and secondary. Although there is an example I'll be showing you later that came from a kindergarten. So we're throwing some things in there, but I just want to give that preface that I think my brain kind of naturally goes towards secondary. Okay, so today's activities are really going to kind of zero in on these 4 areas. I think the respond category happens more in your building of online content, whether that's in Seesaw or Canvas. And some of my other colleagues are doing that more often than I am. But this in particular is all about how we're connecting in community with our students, engaging our students when we do have them online. But then also, I always think of it like, how are we cloning ourselves? How are we making it so that we can actively work with our students while giving them tasks, that sort of thing. So that's what we're gonna kind of dive into today, that piece specifically. So anytime that we're having conversations about what we're building online, just like I've said repeatedly, we need to be thinking about information design. Not only does that help with engaging our students, but it also helps to think with an equity lens and an accessibility lens. So just like I keep repeating myself, thinking about the fonts that we use so that people can read them, but then on the other end, the translation services, some fonts don't translate well. So those are pieces that we have to constantly be thinking about. Okay, so oops, go back because we want to skip ahead to some of the advanced features. So again, preface again, if I talk about something that you don't necessarily have access to today, simply because I am already featuring the Pro account and you guys will be getting that soon. I just unfortunately don't know when that's happening. And when I find out, I'll maybe update in the slide deck or on the documents. So one thing that I'm actually getting a ton of comments about is the Bitmoji Classroom. So we will be addressing that a little bit today. And I got like 3 or 4 emails just yesterday alone with people asking me about this Bitmoji process. So if you already know how to do this, just deal with me for a minute while I kind of get some people set up, because I do think sometimes these little tips and tricks are helpful for people. So the first thing is, Bitmoji was designed as an app on your phone. So step 1, you have to get the app on your phone, create an account, and design your avatar. Okay, so that's step 1. Step 2 is you actually have to go into, and I'll kind of show you real quick, you have to go into the Chrome store. So you can type Chrome store in your Omnibox. I always go to this apps launcher, looks like a waffle in the top right or left hand corner. And then you're looking for the shopping bag, the web store. And then you're just going to type Bitmoji. And what this is going to do is it's going to give you an extension. So if you've taken any of my classes before, super fast breakdown of your Chrome browser. So you have what Google calls the Omnibox. That's where you type your addresses, your search functions. It's called the Omnibox because it does all the things. So you no longer have to go to google.com. You can type all of your stuff right here in the Omnibox and it will do it for you. Want a timer? Say start timer 5 minutes. You want a word define? Say define synchronous, right? Like, and it does all the things, including equations and time zones, everything. Underneath that, I have bookmarks. So to access the bookmarks or to add a bookmark, I just hit the star next to the Omnibox. I have a lot of bookmarks when I enlarge my screen, because right now it's kind of small. When I enlarge my bookmarks, or my screen, you can see that I have a ton of bookmarks. And most of the time I edit my bookmarks so it's just the icon, because I can identify what it is from the icon itself. And then that means I have more space for bookmarks. However, extensions are right next to the Omnibox. So these right here are extensions. Extensions basically are things that happen within a tab. They do one thing and they do it really well. There's certain ones that I use all the time. If you're going to join us for like Google Slides, for example, next week, where we go into the intermediate and advanced, one of the tools or extensions that I use all the time is this one right here. It's called Color Pick Eyedropper. And basically all it does once I click on it is it gives me this little target. Of course, it's not working now, but it gives me this little target and I can drag it over the top of things and figure out the exact color and then copy and paste that so that I can color match things within like Google Slides. So that's one tool that I use all the time. Another tool I use all the time is like to find emojis. So this is another extension where I can just search for emojis and copy and paste it into things. So right next to that, I also have the Bitmoji extension. So once you install the Bitmoji, it's going to ask you to sign into your account. Now remember, you created your account on your app on your phone. So you sign in, you can search through your Bitmojis, and then all you have to do is right click and copy image. And then you can go back into, it won't work on here because I'm in view only, but I can go back into any document and just copy and paste. So I'm copying and pasting on another slide. So hold on, I'll show you in just a minute. So for instance, I copied and pasted that Bitmoji onto that screen. So it works on anything on Google Docs and Google Slides. You just copy and paste. It's a right click, copy and paste. So again, the steps are go onto your phone, create an account, design your avatar, install the extension, and then you have quick and easy access to use those Bitmojis wherever. So for instance, this one is one that someone created. I saw floating around on social media recently. So if you click on this in the click here or in the speaker notes, what it's going to do is give you a forced copy so that you can go in and change the wording on this and add your own Bitmoji if this is something that you would like to do. As I stated yesterday, I think going over expectations is really important. I don't want us to view it as, you know, constantly monitoring behavior, but I think that the more we give direct instructions to the students, the better, and the better experience we all will have. I think a gradual release of showing them different things, but then also your expectations. Yesterday I referenced that there was, I was watching a video of someone doing kindergarten for the first day this week in Texas, and he had some wonderful cards printed out that showed when he wanted the kids to mute themselves and when he wanted them to unmute themselves. And right within the first, it was 7 minutes into the first day of school, he was holding those cards up and having the kids unmute and mute themselves. So that is one thing that we definitely need to start working on with kids, is showing them all of the things that they can do within Zoom. For the most part, they just know how to sign in and how to mute and unmute and turn their video on and off. There's so much more that we can do with them within Zoom, just like with our reactions that we used yesterday. All of those things are really important when we talk about engaging the kids. Okay, so are there any other questions?
And yes, I'm all the way down on slide 28. The first half was from yesterday, so the second half is where I'm going now. So there is a link in the speaker's notes down below, or you should be able to click the picture itself, and that should force the copy for you. So that just basically means it's your copy now, and you can do with it as you will. You can exchange the Bitmojis or put your Bitmojis over the top. Not sure how we interface Bitmoji with Zoom or why. Yes, so okay, if you haven't been on social media at all, then maybe you are missing the entire Bitmoji Classroom craze, but it's all that people are asking for right now, and it's what everybody seems to be talking about, and I've been having a hard time with it, if I'm being perfectly honest. I will fast forward to a page so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. The Bitmoji Classrooms are these guys here. Oh my gosh, how far down? Here we go. Here's a Bitmoji Classroom. So the whole thing right now is that people are going out and they're building these classrooms to like show off their personalities, and then they plop this Bitmoji in. I think I'm having a hard time with it just simply because I want us to use our faces and our voices as much as possible. But this is something that people are super into. And so, I mean, I don't want to knock it. And honestly, I have a middle schooler, and when I was working on this Bitmoji Bitmoji Classroom here, she came over and leaned over my shoulder and thought it was the coolest thing. So I could be totally wrong, and the kids might be super, super engaged and into this. And I think what I will do, I know we're talking about it in our Google Slides class, and we will be giving you access to a lot of pre-made ones. I do think it's cool that people are taking the time to build these and get those kind of Google Slide skills available, but there are already a ton out there that you can just plop in your Bitmoji and go. You don't have to build them yourself. So that that is one of the reasons why I was talking about it, because it is a hot topic right now. And I think people have been asking about it. So other than that, like, I think it's just, again, a part of humanizing the experience. Plopping in your Bitmoji can make things fun and engaging for kids. They seem to like it. I did not want that on there anymore. Okay, so here's what we're going to do, friends. We're going to go into a breakout room. And what I'm going to have you guys do is we're gonna get into a Google slide. I hate all of these noises that you guys can now hear. I apologize. So what I'm gonna do is drop in the chat a slide deck that is editable. Okay, so in the chat, there's a Google document or Google slide deck that I want you guys to go ahead and open. And then I'm going to send you out into breakout rooms. So with students, and I'm going to talk about this in just a minute, we want to give them very clear design tasks. And then I'm also going to talk about a couple of other ideas as well, but I wanted us to kind of experience it as we get going here. So open up that Google slide, and then I'm going to break you out into breakout rooms. And off to the side of the slide deck, you will notice that I have some directions for you in the gray work area. So once you open that slide deck, just kind of scroll over to the left-hand side and you'll see some directions. So when you get into the breakout rooms, what I'm gonna want you to do is go into or onto the slide of your breakout room. So if you are in breakout room 1, you are using slide 1. If you are in breakout room 2, you are going to slide 2. Then I want you to make sure your video is off. You're going to pick a person to be your note taker, and then you're going to pick another person that's going to share back out to the group. Okay? Everyone must contribute to their slide. You don't know what slide you're on until I put you in breakout rooms. So just know once you're in the deck, you will move to your appropriate slide. All right? So moving into breakout rooms now. I'm curious by reaction, can I see how many of you that was maybe your first breakout room you've ever been in? Maybe give me a thumbs up if that was your first ever breakout room. Thumbs up if that was your first ever breakout room. So one of the things to keep in mind with breakout rooms is that it becomes its own Zoom room in and of itself, okay? So when you're into that, when you first go into that Zoom room, if you're muted and no one's talking, then you're not gonna hear any audio. I asked everyone to turn off their video for a reason. There's a couple of things to think about there. Obviously, first, as I've said multiple times, your video feed is going to pull from your data on your internet. So if you have students at home that are struggling with internet already, it's not the fastest internet, getting them into the habit of only turning their video on and off when you need like visual cues from them is going to be really important. And it also is just going to help their experience, right? But then additionally, I saw there's a couple of things happening when I sent you into those breakout rooms. Because I was using a Google Doc, I could live check and see as you guys were writing and working together, I could see how many people were in each rooms. I could see you as you were working and typing. Like all of that is showing to me live in my window. So that's one way for me to check and see that the tasks are being done, right? Another way is if your audio is off and the students have switched their view, Zoom is still playing in the background, but now they're in this slide deck, then potentially I can jump in and out of breakout rooms and just listen and just hear what they're doing and hear how they're working together as a group. And they're kind of none the wiser, right? Because they're in the slide deck or they're doing this other task or activity, and I'm just listening in just like it was any other kind of group project, table group kind of a thing. So there's a lot of like ways that this could benefit us, and especially if you get that that piece working with them in the beginning on muting and unmuting, turning video on, turning video off. But again, giving them very clear tasks of what to do. So I am curious if anyone does want to practice sharing back to the group. You can go ahead and share your screen if you're feeling confident. If you were elected from your breakout room to share back, maybe you can share your screen and the slide that your group worked on, and then maybe verbally just tell us how that felt or what thoughts you had with the breakout rooms. Is there anyone? Maybe you can give me a show of hands. Looks like Lisa is willing to. Lisa, go ahead. You have the ability, you should have the ability to share your screen and to go ahead and unmute yourself. Wonderful.
Okay, I'm gonna try it because I went to school last year and I had to do a lot of Zoom and sharing of my screen. So I'm gonna see if I can do this.
Yeah.
Okay. Uh-oh, it says you cannot start to share what other participants are sharing.
If someone else tried to do it right now, like if someone was just trying and hit the share button, they might have kicked you back off. I was seeing your screen. Do it again.
Okay.
You did it right. I was seeing your screen.
Okay. So here's our, does everybody see our screen?
Yep, looks good. Thumbs up.
Awesome. Okay, so this is what our slide was. Social networking sites, are they good for society? And some of the pros we said.
Someone is asking me to walk through exactly how I did a breakout room. So here's what we're gonna do. Thank you, Lisa, for unsharing your screen. Fabulous. So as a part of your tools down at the bottom, one of the options is a breakout room. Now, when I'm sharing my screen, it actually is part of my like tools that float, which I know sounds weird, but that's what it is. And all it does is it says breakout room. So there's a couple of things that you can do ahead of time. First one is, what I did with you guys was I just hit breakout rooms. I said automatically assign, and I said launch rooms. It's hard when we're in a Zoom for me to show you all of these pieces because Zoom just actively blocks out some of my controls so that you can't see it when I'm broadcasting. I could try and take, it becomes really meta to try and show you all this, but again, I can't recommend enough that you guys get into rooms together and try this out once we're off of this particular Zoom. So you hit the breakout room button. It can automatically assign all of the participants into rooms and it breaks them out so it's even. And then you launch people into the rooms and they have to join the room. You can broadcast to all of the rooms. So hopefully you saw, and maybe you didn't if you were in the slide deck, but I broadcasted to everyone that I was going to pull you back in about a minute. And so for some of us, that might have shot out as like a notification on the top of our computer screens. But if you were in the slide deck, and you might not have gotten that message, to be perfectly honest. And then when I'm ready to pull you back, I close the breakout rooms and say, you know, join the main room, and everybody comes back. Now, I was excited at first because I thought we had access to annotation tools, but the Chromebooks do not support the annotation tools. So that's where we're going to have to utilize things like Google Forms and slide decks and Formative. And I'm going to show you a couple of other options. And that piece, I think, I'm going to share my screen again. So I think the more you practice with that breakout room stuff, the easier it gets, but it's really just a couple of clicks on your end to launch it. Okay, so I'm gonna share my screen because someone in the chat also asked, I keep on mentioning the ability, I'm gonna go past that, the ability to turn things on and off, or the video on and off for the bandwidth. That's one purpose. And then there's another one when we get into the breakout rooms as well, beyond just what I was saying before. If they turn their video off, they're less likely to be super chatty with one another. And then I think too, I'm gonna come back to that last slide, but I think too, when you give them really clear tasks to do, then that also will kind of mitigate some of the chatter. So video off mitigates the extra talking and chatter, really clear tasks. And then I think too, because the video is off, you can jump in and out of breakout rooms and kind of, you know, monitor that the task is working and that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. Now, a part of here is I'm mentioning the whiteboard, so just ignore all of that piece because the Chromebooks don't support any of that. But you hopefully saw within that slide deck, that really quick slide deck I put together, the directions are off in the working gray area on the side of the slide, telling them specifically what to do. You could also use, you know, anything within Canvas. You could have the kids jump into Canvas as well to perform activities. So there's lots of different options. So you're basically like bringing in outside help. Now, I'm always looking at it from a perspective of how can I either clone myself or work in a way so that I can jump into a breakout room and do some intervention work. So the breakout rooms you can easily assign right away, like automatically, as I mentioned before, you can automatically just send people out. However, when you go into setting up or scheduling one of your Zoom meetings, you can actually, and I'll show you here, you can set it up if you have your roster ahead of time. I'm gonna pause my sharing, hold on. As I open up my Zoom settings, just I've said this before, usually it defaults to my profile and I just don't necessarily want you guys to see like all of my profile information. So I stop my sharing real quick, resume my sharing so you can see. Okay, so there is a way, let's edit this meeting. So you saw down below, once you save or create a meeting, you have access to create polling questions ahead of time. Again, remember the polling is a part of the professional side, which you will get soon. But you also have the ability to create, so breakout room pre-assign. So if you've looked at your data, for example, and you know that you have 4 kids that you need to go into a breakout room and to work with on your own, you could create rooms ahead of time so that those, you know, you can create table groups basically. So like if you have specific kids that you want to work together, or you have a specific group that you know you want to meet with, you can pre-create rooms ahead of time within the meeting area. Okay. Another thing that came up, or someone was emailing me and a colleague yesterday, was that they were in a teachers college webinar, and they had recommended volunteer chaperones within Zoom rooms, or just Zoom chaperones. So volunteers for the classroom. So I would really recommend that they be people that have already gone through the volunteer process or signed through the district volunteer process. But basically they were recommending, and this is more, I think, something that people have access to at the elementary level, but hey, you never know, you might have people at the secondary level that would be interested. But I know that's one thing that we always think about, is that it's hard for us to constantly jump into a lot of the different breakout rooms. I think if you had an additional device, like maybe an iPad or something, you could sign in, and that could be another way that you could jump in to and just watch some of the other rooms if you had a secondary device. But then this is a good option as well. What I have done for you, go back. Hold on. I created a quick, based on this example, I created a quick Google form that you could make a copy of. And it looks like I didn't link it, so hold on. Let me go grab that. So it was just a Google form that you could send out to parents and see if there's anyone that's willing. I think a part of it would be that you'd have to definitely train them with what your expectations are, but it could be another good way to get people in to help you with breakout rooms if that's something you're interested in. So I'll make sure, you guys should see this now. I'll make sure this is linked in the slide deck as well. But basically just a simple Google form. When are you available? Again, this would be based on when you're actually having synchronous lessons that you potentially have, you know, a premeditated time of when you're going to have them. And then how often are you available? Have you already filled out the district information? If not, please go here. When are you available for a training? And then, you know, I understand that I will only be a presence in the room. So this could be a whole can of worms that you don't even want to approach. And I get that, I understand that. But I also think that this could be a great way to utilize, you know, people that like to volunteer, but you're like, I don't know how in this version of the world I have you volunteer. This could be an option. Anyways, it's coming from Teachers College. I thought it was good. I thought I would mention it because I think that it gives us some ideas. Okay. Other ideas or thoughts?
Nicole, there was a question, can we legally record students in breakout rooms without parent permission?
So again, this is something we keep bringing up because I know you guys are very interested. It flies in the face of everything we were told in spring. Because at one point earlier, a couple of weeks ago, we were told, you know, that you'll be recording your synchronous lessons and then posting them for students to access that couldn't be there live, and which everybody was like, well, wait, you told us we couldn't do that. So we are waiting for guidelines from IT, from the district lawyers, and from TNL to give us a better understanding of what our days are going to look like. And then we'll put together some guidelines and have some like firm answers for you. But getting all three of those people to make a decision quickly is rather difficult. So short answer is that's one thing that we have heard, but we need more clarification. So I know that's not really a good
answer.
And
then one more from Ellen in the chat. We were going to talk about, can you control the chat in breakout rooms? Can you like turn it off?
Yeah, you can. So in your security settings, you at any time can turn the chat on and off. So potentially, if you wanted the chat to be off when going into the breakout rooms, you could turn it off before launching the breakout room. And then when they come back to the main room, you could turn it back on. So yeah. But I don't think it's not one of those things where you can individually say breakout room 1 can have their chat on, breakout room 2, no. Like it's pretty much all or nothing. I mentioned this yesterday, so I wanted to make sure that I mentioned it again. We actively need to teach the kids how to jump between windows. Their Chromebook screen is actually really tiny, and so they need to get better at moving in between different tabs. Whoa. I don't know what was happening. They need to get better at moving in between the different tabs. So one thing that I think is really helpful is to make sure that you tell them about that button that you see on the screen now. That allows them to see every window that they have open, so they can jump in between. They can either click on their trackpad which window they want to go in, or obviously they can touch the screen. Additionally, you guys also have this ability. So our fingers can do lots of different things on our trackpad on our teacher MacBooks, and a lot of the same things apply on the trackpad on Chromebooks. So for example, 3 fingers on your trackpad, if you flick them up, it will show you all of your current windows that you have open so that you can select which one you want to go to. And then 3 fingers flicked back down will bring all of your windows back as you were just looking at them. So go ahead and try that for me. And that's something you can teach the kids as well. So it's either that 3 finger, and you know, we all learn differently, all do different tricks to make our lives more efficient. So I think teaching them both is a good idea, just so that they become more proficient in moving back and forth between different screens. And that ultimately will really help them while you're on Zoom. Yeah, we have MacBooks, not Chromebooks. So sometimes it's really difficult to be able to see what they see and to know what buttons that they should push. This is my daughter's Chromebook, and oftentimes when she's not using it, I will sometimes grab it and sign into it and try and see what she sees and what buttons she pushes, because you're right, it is different than our MacBook, and that makes it kind of challenging for us for sure. Okay, so here's what the breakout room controls look like. So I forgot that I even had this available to you because I think I knew ahead of time that it wasn't going to show you. So when you're moving them into breakout rooms, you've got all sorts of different options. You also, here's another thing to think about. When you're in a Zoom session and you create breakout rooms, and then you bring everybody back into the same room again, and then you're like, okay, let's go back to our breakout rooms. If you hit that breakout room button again, it will push everybody back to the same group without you having to do anything. So it's just automatically keeping people in the same assigned group. At any time, you can hit this recreate button and redisperse everybody so they go into a new group. So you don't really actually have to do anything. You can keep everybody in the same group, because that's good, right? We want them to be able to work and develop a community within that Zoom session. But then once that Zoom session is done, you'd recreate the rooms again and they'll be randomly assigned. So that is something to think about. You do have to go into your settings and turn on breakout rooms if you don't have that on. So go into your settings after we're done, or you can go in right now and search for breakout rooms and then make sure that that is actually turned on if it's something that you'd like to play around with. Oh, and then this is what I was just showing you a minute ago. So you can make pre-assigned, if you have your rosters, you can make pre-assigned breakout room groups. Okay, so I wanted to show you another cool tool that you maybe haven't ever seen before, and it's called Mentimeter. So if I can have you guys go ahead. So if you want to go ahead and open that guy up, it's in the chat. So this one is kind of a cool way to keep kids engaged. It's a different site. You'd have to go in, create an account, and create your poll. It's like a poll without using the polling within, straight within Zoom. So it has lots of different types of questions. So go ahead and just answer or submit that question for me, and then I'll show you why I think it's pretty cool. Because I can go in and get these live results that I can share as you guys are popping it up. So what's cool is as you guys start entering, it'll start moving for me. So you can do like multiple choice type questions. You can do short answer type questions. And then I can share the screen live as we start to see your responses. So I think this is another example of just utilizing some outside resources, and I'll show you a couple more as well. When I did want to go back. Okay, so I want to go back because there was one thing that I didn't show you before. It reminds me, use the reaction tools for me. How many of you had a smart board in your classroom at one point? Give me a thumbs up reaction. Because this what I'm about to show you kind of reminds me of a smart board tool. Really? No one had smart boards? Everyone's watching the Mentimeter. It becomes very cathartic for me as we watch the Mentimeter go through. So Mentimeter is free. I don't actually know what restrictions you technically have. Maybe you only get so many Mentimeter responses. I'm not sure. But basically how I shared this with you guys is I went into Mentimeter ahead of time, set up my account, set up my question, and then it has like a share out button. So you grab the share out link and that's what you throw in the chat. That's what I gave you guys. And you just quickly typed your responses. And then to see the live results for me as the presenter, I had a different link that I opened in a separate window so that you guys can see the responses. So that's kind of the workflow. Okay, so what I'm going to do is kind of slide backwards. I know I'm going out of order, but I wanted to make sure to show this to you. So this is an example that comes from someone that has so many great resources. His name is Coach Ben, and he is a kindergarten teacher in California. And I think he's doing some really, really amazing things, especially with virtual online learning. And this came from a slide deck that he had all about the metamorphosis of butterflies. And so when I go in as a teacher, I have access to the annotation tools. So I just kind of wanted to show you a couple of things. So, and you guys have access to, don't do it right now, but I have annotation turned on for you guys. So technically anyone could come in and start drawing all over my screen. Please don't do it right now. And I will tell you when you can try it. I'll give you like a minute for everyone to try things. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to, and you kind of have to be quick about it. It might be something you do ahead of time, maybe while someone's in like a breakout room. So this reminds me of our old smart boards where you could like draw these like big blocks and then remove them as you were done talking about a different section. So within the annotation tools, I have the ability to add text over the screen. I have the ability to draw at any time. It's really hard with a trackpad though, so I wouldn't recommend the drawing tool unless you're actually using something else. You have the ability to add like a stamp. So I could definitely see if you are using a website or a slide deck that you could say, hey guys, we're at number 1 right now. I just put a little arrow. The arrow, unfortunately, is that little. Like there's nothing I can do to make it bigger. So that kind of bums me out a little bit, to be perfectly honest. But if I liked the idea of these little like boxes, oops, go back. Now you'll notice I just moved out of the screen and those things stayed there. Come on. I need the select tool. That's what I need. So then as I need to, I can remove them. I don't know. You might have to play around for how, and you can delete any of the items that you put on there. And then you can bulk clear. There's a trash can, so you can bulk clear everything that's on there. So you have the ability to use those annotation tools, but the kids on the Chromebooks do not have the ability, which is kind of a bummer. There's a whiteboard and everything that they could definitely use. So that's up to you. I think the trackpad annotation is harder. So if you have a teacher iPad, which we talked about yesterday, how you can access or jump that teacher iPad into Zoom really easily, I'd probably use a whiteboard app instead of these annotation tools, but they're there nonetheless, and I wanted to make sure to show you. We showed you Mentimeter. Did thumbs up, thumbs down? Did you like Mentimeter? Is that something you might go back and look at? Awesome. I love people that are quick on the reactions. Awesome. Okay. So a couple of other ideas in terms of like breakout rooms and tasks. You know, if you aren't into the breakout room idea, you know, another thing you could potentially do is have the kids go off and watch like an instructional video, and then maybe you keep a separate group still in the main room not watching an instructional video. Again, there's lots of different options for how you might actually use your synchronous time. Again, I'm not quite sure what the teachers that are kind of working with district TOSAs are going to come up with in terms of what our actual day looks like. I've seen some schedules coming out of like California, for example, where it is very prescripted what we're doing with our synchronous time. I haven't seen anything. Nobody's shown me anything yet. So I think that there's a lot of like wiggle room in terms of how you utilize Zoom that fits your teaching style. But I wanted to bring up, you know, you have the ability of doing Google Forms. So this is an example Google form where I'm taking information from the students, they watch a quick video, and then they answer the question. So that could be a super quick, easy way for you to get some activity for the kids to do. And I think, you know, keeping it simple so it's not a ton of clicks, and maybe you gradually introduce some of these different things over time. We don't want to overwhelm kids with a ton of different tools, but we also want to keep them engaged with, you know, different ways to use their technology and get our content, right? I think Google Slides, you saw that one example of one where we were typing and working. Here's one that kind of sets them up with more of like a linear progression. So they watch this video, they do a Google Doc assignment, and they turn it in on Canvas. Same thing here. Here's some different videos with different questions. They answer and do some writing prompts and then turn it in on Canvas. So I'm just trying to show you lots of different ideas. Google Maps. If you're a history teacher, geography teacher, I love the ability to go into Google Maps and have kids, of course the one I click on doesn't work anymore. So have kids like zoom in with Google Maps, watch this video and zoom in and take a tour of the city and then answer this question. So Google Maps, if you go to mymaps.google.com, you can set these pins down all over the world and ask specific questions or add in a video. I love that some of my videos aren't working anymore. Oh, this one's good. I don't know if anyone's ever seen this particular soccer team that has a floating soccer field. So I actually, if you zoom in, and I'm not going to right now because it will take too long, but if you zoom in on where I dropped this pin, I dropped the pin on their floating soccer field. So sometimes the object permanence becomes a lot more realistic for students when you drop them on the map like that. Like, oh, this is a real story and a real place. Like, yeah, it is. So that's my maps. I love Adobe Spark tools. So you could ask the students after, doing other projects, reading some articles and watching some videos to put their knowledge into either an Adobe Spark page or an Adobe Spark video. Super quick turnaround. They could do an Adobe Spark post, which is just like an image. And then I'd maybe have them turn that image that they created into like a Canvas discussion so that everybody can see the images that they created together. Sometimes when I'm creating in Canvas, I like to ask myself, who benefits from this turn-in of this assignment? And if all students would benefit from seeing each other's work, then I make a Canvas discussion, right? But if it really only benefits me as the teacher to see it and give them feedback, then it's like a Canvas assignment. But I always think in terms of like, I want to develop a community where they can see each other's work, then Canvas discussions, I think, is just the best way to go about that. If you haven't seen Wakelet is just another way for you to pop in information or bookmark things. This is an example that a teacher put together, and I think these were students popping in books and their opinions on the books or like their book report. And this is just a Wakelet. So it's kind of like Pinterest, I guess. It's just another tool a lot of people are super into right now. So Wakelet, that's that one. And I keep our fingers crossed, but we're hoping we can get Book Creator for teachers in the district, because that is a wonderful way to do a finished published product. So Book Creator is another one. And I think I have an example on here. Oops, go back. And I am running out of time, so I want to do this super fast. So this is more of a little kid example where students created monsters and then added their voice. How great is that? Wouldn't students love that? And even our bigger kids love it, middle school and high school. Book Creator's amazing. So really, really hoping we can get that going for you guys. Okay, and then finally, I know I'm losing people because I'm running out of time, but I did want to talk about what it looks like to utilize your Bitmoji Classroom. So Bitmoji Classroom is something it's a Google slide, so you can embed it in Canvas, you can give kids access to it on Seesaw. You can also use it in Zoom to teach from. So all of these are links. Everything that's in here is potentially something that can be linked out. So for example, if you click on the best version of you poster, that will actually take you to a person's link tree where she has like 300 different Bitmoji style classrooms, from libraries to math classrooms to whatever, pre-built. You can just go through and find one that fits your personality and plop your Bitmoji in. So if you click there, that will take you it. But you could actually click onto things like, here's an attendance spreadsheet tracker. So I could go in and do attendance real fast. Or maybe I have, this was one that is a feeling check-in. I just made this on Google Drawings, and it's just emojis. So that's just a wellness check-in. Or here's another example. This one's called Jamboard, and Jamboard is a Google Suite product. So if you type jamboard.google.com, you can make things like this. So this is something similar to a Google slide where kids can actually go in and add their information to it. So these are kind of more like morning meeting kind of questions, and they're just slides with different questions. And the kids could come in and either draw or add a little Post-it note with their information. Think of it kind of like Padlet, but you're not limited because it's a Google product. You can make millions of Jamboards. Okay, so from a Bitmoji Classroom, anything in here is clickable and linkable, and you could in fact use it to teach from when you're using Zoom. So hopefully that gave you guys a lot of examples of different ways to pull in other pieces to engage students with activities and stuff while you're going. Let me know, we'll give you the eval, but let me know if there's other thoughts and things you need, someone to touch on for you or to go over. And then Matt, if there's any other questions that I need to talk about before we leave.